Everyone in this room, in their bloodstream, has chemicals that are synthetic, that are invented by man, and that are potentially toxic. Hundreds of them. You didn't give your permission for these chemicals to be in your body, but they're in your body. They're in your body because they're in the water you drink, they're in the air you breathe, they're in the products you purchase, they're in the food you eat, and that's not right. And the purpose of the Center for Environmental Health is to solve this problem. I'd like to everybody take a second and look at the chair you're sitting in. Seriously, take a quick look. It looks like any other chair you ever sat in, right? So it's full of chlorinated chemical flame retardants. How do I know this? Because our staff tested them about an hour ago. It's true. And the insulation in these walls, probably the same. So these chemicals are associated with cancer, infertility, diabetes, obesity, and they're in our bloodstreams. I also want to call out, this is like I'm going rogue on the speech already, but Nancy Skinner is here in the room tonight, and I just want to call out that Nancy Skinner in the California State Assembly has probably done as much as anybody on the planet to try to protect us from these kinds of chemicals, these flame retardants. That's not Nancy. That's my daughter, Gigi. And every day at preschool, at Growing Light Preschool, Gigi lies down with all the other kids at Growing Light for nap time. You may be wondering, what was this doing here? And when they do, they lie down on a nap mat like this. And think about it, so it's soft, and when they put their heads down and some air comes out, they put their heads down, and the air comes out. That air contains a vapor of the exact same chemicals that are in the cushion of your chair that I just described, with the same health impacts: cancer, infertility, diabetes. It's outrageous. It's totally outrageous. So what we're doing about it is we're forcing huge chemical companies to stop marketing chemicals that are exposing our kids to these kinds of toxic chemicals. These are multi-billion-dollar companies. These particular ones use a scorched earth strategy. They play very hard. They have a massive lobbying machine. They have a mountain of lawyers and cash. But we have something they don't have, and we have the truth, and that's very powerful. So that sounds daunting, but actually the problem is much bigger than that. Because that's a handful of chemicals, maybe 20, 25 chemicals in there that we're talking about. But there's 84,000 chemicals marketed by the chemical industry in the United States. 84,000. Very few of them have been tested for their health impacts. So we don't know what the health impacts are of the majority of these chemicals. And so if a company finds that there's a problem with one of the chemicals, say BPA, if they find that there's, we're discovering that BPA mimics hormones and could therefore cause breast cancer later in life, they will rightly take out the BPA from their sippy cup or their baby bottle or their Nalgene bottle or anything else. But what they don't know is what they're replacing it with. They don't know the health impacts of the replacement chemical for that BPA. Not only do they not know, but they don't want to know. They have a disincentive to know. They're better off not knowing. Because if they don't know, they don't have any potential liability, and they don't have a problem where they're going to have to switch over. And so here's the thing they do know. If it turns out that the replacement chemical also makes us sick, they'll just switch again. That's the plan. The plan is, if the replacement chemical has the same or worse health impacts, they'll switch again. It's a big, crazy science experiment, And at CEH, we call this process of switching from untested to tested chemicals to untested ones. Wait, which do they do? The toxic shell game. And it's a very difficult thing to address and to fix, but that's what CEH does, and that's what we're doing. So we do it with great science. We do it by playing a leadership role in Washington, D.C., and we do it by dealing directly with the biggest companies in the country. So in order to do that, we have to use both carrots and sticks. If we only do one or the other, we're not going to be effective. So we work closely with those who share our values, and we're completely unafraid of taking on the biggest, baddest of the ones who don't. That's how we do what we do. This is how we got lead out of virtually all children's products. Here's what happened. Here's what happened, is that we thought about how crazy it was that there were lead in children's products. We thought about the workers who are making those children's products, many of whom are also, who may be pregnant women, or, you know, in China or someplace, they might be children themselves. And we said, okay, we're gonna fix that. So the first thing that we found lead in was baby powder. Baby powder. So if there's a product that shouldn't have lead in it, it's a product designed to be put on the baby's skin where the skin is broken. My mom would say that's mashugana. We forced, that also wasn't in the speech, actually. We forced the entire sector to take the lead out. So these are giants. This is Squibb, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson. And they actually referred in their trade periodical as the CEH standard when they talked about how much lead could be in there afterwards, which was basically none. Then we replicated this with children's jewelry, and we replicated it with baby bibs and toys and candy, and we got the lead out of all of these things. Each sector went completely lead-free. Our science led to the largest recall in the history of the US government. 150 million pieces of trinkets, of tchotchkes, out of gumball machines. And these companies knew that there was lead in these gumball machine tchotchkes. They knew it. And as soon as we called them out, they immediately pulled them all. That's just not right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing. Now, in that case, we dealt first with the companies and then later with the government because we were years ahead of the government's activity. But eventually, they followed our lead, and then we helped to write the legislation at the local and the state and the national level about how to ban heavy metals from children's products. And some of those new laws are literally, word for word, come from the agreements that we signed with the manufacturers. So making systemic change like this, it requires both carrots and sticks. And I'm going to use the chemical flame retardant example to explain how we do that. First, the carrots. CEH is working with industry leaders to create a multi-million-dollar market for products that don't contain these chemical flame retardants. And I want to be super clear about these chemical flame retardants. Federal data shows that they actually don't retard fires in the real world. So it's not like we're making a choice here between health and health. We're just trying to protect kids from toxic chemicals. So Jean Hansen's here. There's Jean. I warned her that I was going to call her out. She wasn't pleased. So Jean works closely with Judy Levin, who runs our chemical flame retardant campaign. And this is what the two of them are doing. They are changing the way interior architects specify and choose products. So Jean's at HDR Architecture. It's the third largest architecture firm in the country. And so she literally is influencing and recommending millions of dollars a year in purchasing for her clients. Millions of dollars a year. And what she and Judy are doing is figuring out a way so that she can recommend to all her clients that they don't buy products with these chemical flame retardants anymore. And then they're not only doing that, but then they're also training all of her peers in the architecture sector so that they're not going to be creating any demand for this stuff anymore. It's incredible. But it's not just the architecture sector. So Sister Susan Vickers is here. There she is. And Kathy Gerwig is here. And Kathy is on the CH Board of Directors, which I'm very proud of. And they are 2 senior executives at Dignity Health and Kaiser Permanente, respectively. And so they're working with Judy to do the same thing, to triangulate the whole healthcare sector to say, we're not going to buy these toxic chemicals anymore. And then Judy's also working with people at an Ivy League university and in local government and at a large construction company and at Staples. So what that means is that just like they're creating a revolution in the architecture sector and in the healthcare sector, they're also creating a revolution in the universities. And we'll be training all the universities to not buy this stuff. And we'll be training all the construction companies. And we'll be training all the local government purchasers. And we'll be training all of the, what was the last category? Oh yeah, Staples. And all of the retailers of furniture. And so what's going to happen is we are going to starve the market for these toxic chemicals. And it doesn't matter how good the marketing is if there's no market. And that's how we're going to stop it. So those are examples of carrots. But we use sticks too. So at Gigi's preschool, I went, and I wonder what people were thinking when I did this, but I went and I looked to see what brand it was that Gigi was sleeping on every day. And she was sleeping on a nap mat made by Peerless. Peerless is the #1 manufacturer of kids' nap mats in the US. And they have a very large percentage of the market share. And we tested Peerless. And they had these same chemical flame retardants as in your chairs today. So with the help of the Lexington Law Group, we sued them. And then we came to an agreement with them. And the agreement was not only did they take out the chemical that they were using illegally in the nap mats, but they agreed that they were going to take out all chemical flame retardants and they weren't going to replace them with any. It was incredible. Now, instead of having an antagonistic relationship with them, which started with a legal notice, we have this great collaborative relationship with them where I get to tell 300 people, this company, Peerless, you should be buying their stuff. They're protecting our kids. It's terrific. The way we did it is we demonstrated to Peerless that it was actually better business for them to not use these toxic chemicals than to use them. So I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. And, phew, you say phew, he's almost done. But I got one thing I want to talk about before I stop. And that is that we have successfully applied this carrot and stick model to lead in children's products. And in children's furniture and products designed for children and for all furniture. And we intend to apply the same model to every toxic chemical in every consumer product, or even every toxic chemical that we're being exposed to through other ways, until we can actually handle this and we're not being exposed to one chemical, then the next, then the next, then the next. And there's only one challenge facing us, and that is in order to do this, we have to do a mountain of testing. Like I said, we tested almost every children's product sold in the US, and now every children's furniture and most adult furniture. And so that testing costs a lot of money. So I'm going to ask for your help. And that's why we need your support, so that we can get these chemicals out of the chairs you're sitting in, out of the insulation in the walls, out of the air we breathe, out of the food we eat, out of the products we buy, and eventually out of our bodies.